Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for that introduction. I really appreciate everybody joining this conversation that we're going to have today. Um, we are definitely in tough times right now, and everybody is trying to see what the new normal is going to be. There's a lot of guesswork that is happening, but one thing is for sure: things will change, and it will not be the same as what it used to be. Almost every industry that we see today has been impacted. Uh, Financial sector is no stranger to this. We have had number of changes in the past, but this one is definitely new territory. So what I want to do today is just kind of walk you through what we see as the new normal, what we see as are the things that we need to do as an industry to make and adapt to these changes. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Happiest Minds as far as how we are taking this challenge forward. Okay, so with that, here's a short agenda we have put together. What is the new normal? What are some of the forces that are impacting the new normal? What are the technologies that we see are going to emerge from all this? And then how are we as in Happiest Minds, as an industry, positioned to take up this challenge, right? So, but before I get there, I just want to kind of step back the pre-COVID era. So what was happening in the pre-COVID era? We have seen a lot of disruption happening by the fintechs, right? The banking industry that was as old as hundreds of years, all of a sudden saw a new challenge, new competition. The fintech came about. A lot of startups came about, but there were three main aspects of that. The first one was, how do I connect everybody, right? How do I connect the consumers? How do I connect the end users? How do I predict their behavior patterns, right? How are they going to take forward some of the business challenges? What is happening in their business? How is their credit? How reliable is their business model, right? So a lot of lending and leasing was impacted, right? So there were a lot of companies in the fintech and different platforms came about, right? There was a crowdsourcing platform, there was a payment infrastructure platform, there's a lot of leading lending platforms that came about, and it's coming about every day. But then all of a sudden we see another change come about. This was from the tech fins, right? So a lot of people who haven't really absorbed this, right? So fintechs were using technology to change the game. Tech fins came with the technology already in place and then got into the financials world, right? So in our world, we call them the four big mammoths, the GAFA, right? The Google, the Amazon, the Facebook, and the Apples of the world. Then, China has got Baidu and Alibaba and Tencent, right? So again, this was changing, right? So very interesting. And then, once all this change was coming about, how does the change management come about? How do the consumers now adapt to this new technology driven financial sector, right? So that was happening in the pre-COVID era, and everybody was kind of talking about what is the new Apple launched a new card, right? I mean, you go into point of sales has changed. Lot of technology was coming about, and it will still come about. But here is the problem. Okay, the underlying forces, the underlying business has not changed as much, right? While with the front end changed, a lot of integration was happening, a lot of new technology is coming. What was not happening is the models still existed, which were in existence for a number of years. So my background, as in the introduction, was, my previous life, I was studying AI in University of Michigan. When I came out, the only jobs I could get with an AI background was probably flipping burgers, right? I'm exaggerating, of course. The reason was that AI was primarily used only in the financial world. It was, even though AI came about in 1950, I think 59, when we first saw some glimpse of this, right? Coming back to, so what is happening in the business model, the underlying business models, right? Uh, they are not agile. The data was still not consumed to the level they should be consuming to do predictive analytics, right? People were still, looking at some of the older technologies in the back end to work. Now, what has happened with COVID? A lot of things have changed, and it will continue to change, right? It revealed some unexpected flaws in the business model, right? No one predicted this economic shutdown, right? The global economic shutdown of this magnitude. So now, what is the capital situation? What is the P&L? What is the liquidity position? All that changes. Now, the financial institutes are struggling to, to look at this, because every business model is based on data, the historical data. All of a sudden, we don't have any historical data because this is new normal. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. A lot of companies that had solid businesses going and all of a sudden filing for liquidity, right? Banks don't know what is the credit situation of a company, right? So what is happening is there will be new data that will continue to come in. Almost every day is a new day, right? So we are seeing a lot of changes in the industry, right? So modeling is becoming a challenge because the data is stale, or it's old, or it doesn't have the reflection of the new world that we are living in, right? Models are failing. So what do we need, right? So we need an agile system to adapt to these new changes, access to new data sources, integrating these data sources at real time, right? So these are some of the things that we are seeing. Now, coming back to the screen that I have in front of everybody, right? So this is the world of uncertainty, is what I call it, right? The banks, the models are not reliable. The consumer fear and anxiety is to a level that's increasing on a daily basis, right? I mean, stock market is not a reflection of economy, and I've maintained that throughout my career. And a lot of people look at that and say, you know what, but we're seeing some positive news there, but that's not it, right? I mean, if you look the underlying, there is multiple problems. There's a lack of vision on the business continuity, right? Nobody, if you look at the IT sector, where I belong, nobody wants to do any forecasting for the rest of the year, right? They'll say, I will take a quarter by quarter, because nobody knows what's going to happen. So what will emerge, right? Emerging technologies will continue to be there. How do we adapt to them is going to change. There will still continue to be more smart apps because people will be reluctant on having any brick and mortar presence. Consumer behaviors and investment patterns are going to continue to change. There will be one very, very big problem, and I face this as a consumer also, is the security aspects of it, right? Am I putting all my credentials? I'm putting all my personal information online. How secure is it, right? So these are the world is going to change, and what we need are systems and change management within the companies to adapt and embrace the change in an agile fashion. So that's what the forces of the new normal are going to lead to. Okay. Now, there's a lot of technology, and a lot of this is buzzwords, right? So I've always maintained throughout my career that computer scientists actually never really come up with anything new. We just rebrand a lot of stuff. Some of it is true, some of it is not. But if you look at the technology that exists today, right? You take from blockchain to AI to cloud-based, some form or fashion always existed. But what is happening is there's a lot of standardization that has come about. We will continue to see more technology come about, right? AI is specifically, I want to spend just a couple of seconds, right? So it's not really a buzzword, right? I think the problem there exists that we don't know how to really use it, right, efficiently. And a lot of time we confuse between automation and artificial intelligence, right? There is a lot of tools that are doing great job in automating the backend processes, but the key is, can I predict, right? And do I have enough knowledge to predict it correctly so that I can influence my models underneath? AI comes in different flavors. There is deep learning, there's neural networks, there's supervised, unsupervised, a lot of buzzwords. But essentially what it gives me is the power to digest and influence my business, right? At a scale that has never been there before, and it's only continuing to grow. And it also gives me an opportunity to change in an agile fashion, right? So again, these are some of the trends that you see. I'll be more than happy to go deeper into any of this if you guys are interested. But that's what I'm seeing. And this is across the industry, guys. It's just not the financial sector, okay? A couple of minutes I just want to spend on who we are and what do we bring to the table. So Happiest Minds, we started 8 years ago, right? We are, of course, an IT company. But one of the biggest differences we bring about is that we are born digital, born agile. And those are the things, underlying stuff that I was talking earlier, right? What that means is our people, our processes, our solutions that we are bringing about are very, very they adapt to the new technologies, right? They adapt to the new normal, right? And in a seamless fashion. And we are seeing that. We are a very mindful company, which means we have taken a humane aspects of everything, either from people, process, or partners, right? We have a very good ecosystem of partners, and specifically in the financial, we of course do more than finance, right? I mean, we do retail CPG, and we do quite a bit of manufacturing, industrial. But one of the key aspects that we bringing to the table is we're looking at the best practices across the industry, bringing them about into the new financial world that we are going to be living in. We are a very customer focused, and we do an end-to-end digital. So that's a kind of a marketing blip that I wanted to give you guys on who we are and what we do. Okay.
Manish, thank you. Thank you very much. Please. Oh, sorry. I thought you were done. Please go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So a couple of, just to kind of give you a glimpse of, from an domain expertise we have from artificial intelligence. I talked about that. We have expertise in a lot of products in the fintech world. We do end-to-end testing, security. So this is kind of give you a glimpse of our financial domain, technical domain capabilities that we bring about, whether it's lending, whether it's mortgage industry, it's leasing, payment integration, end-to-end testing. That's what we do. We have a very, very good customer base in the fintech industry. From large banks to peer-to-peer banking, to mortgage companies, to insurance. And that's where our expertise lie in, right? We help companies design the next generation platforms. We help them modernize the platforms. We automate the backend systems. And all this is coming about and making a lot of sense in the world that we are living in today. A lot of my customers are saying, I want to move to the next generation of the products, and we are helping them with that whole journey, right? So just to kind of sum it up, right? What do we bring to the table is the digital capital, and we will help in mitigating the risks that we currently face in the uncertain times. And that's what I wanted to kind of end my presentation with. Any questions?
No, thank you very much, Manish. This is super interesting, and for me, you already won I would say the award of the best probably name, but because having a company called Happiest Minds is one. So that's really great. Right. So while waiting for some Q&As, I can already see one. Can you see it, Manish? So if you click down your screen, you would have a Q&A button that you can click and see.
Actually, I'm not able to see it.
Okay, let me read it then yes. To you. So this is a question raised by Kujakra Sharma, and the question is, how do we tap on the customer company personas virtually in current situation? And then how can technology help in that and drive business solutions?
So how do we tap to the customer company personas virtually in current situation? Okay. So the way we do that is when we work very closely with the companies on doing the empathy-based design thinking workshops. We capture the information that currently lives within the company, and almost everybody has that as an asset. So we tap into that to build out our solutions. How can technology help in that? Technology essentially, there's a lot of new technology that's coming about, as well as we have talked about. How do you create those business models with the right segmentation? So we do quite a bit of segmentation. We do data analytics. We collect the data from the customers, and then we do small prototypes along those lines. Yeah.
All right. There is a second question, Manish. It's how can you help banks modernize their legacy systems?
So that's actually a very loaded question. Okay, it needs to be qualified a little bit, right? What does that mean by legacy systems? Is legacy something that lives in the mainframes? Is legacy something that lives in the world pre-COVID? What are we talking about? So, but I take a very different approach. It is not about modernizing systems. It's about bringing the right processes at the right time and simplifying the processes. Now, whether that means that we'll have to move the whole backend to a cloud, or whether we still can keep it on premise and bring a better interface at the front, it all depends on a system by system basis, right? But to modernize, again, so we as a company, or I'm not just talking about Happiest Minds as an industry, we have done for last 20 years, we have modernized a lot of systems, essentially looking at from the back end to the front. So it all depends. It's a very difficult question to answer, but I would say some of the trends that are going about, we are able to tap into that. Okay.
Thank you, Manish. We still have actually five minutes before we go to our first break for today. So here I want to give the opportunity also to our 67 attendees right now, plus our panelists. So we have 77 participants, which is, I think, an excellent number. But I'll give you the opportunity to raise also some concerns, maybe also via the Q&A button. If you know there are some aspects that you would like, either Joel, myself, or Manish to answer or to raise. While doing that, please, go to your keyboards and start typing any question or any idea you want to share. I would just say that what we've learned already this morning is that when it comes to fintech and blockchain, Joel has very clearly said that we are still really at the beginning of a long journey, and he's given the internet example, and then the bandwidth and so on as a good comparison here. But I guess what is also important to note is that, again, regulation and how to regulate fintech is going to be also very interesting, especially in areas like AI, and Manish has mentioned this right now. And I mentioned, like, again, how the EU is looking at that, but also other places, and data. So how to regulate data, how to regulate AI. Are we looking for more, open data or not? I mean, contactless or not? Where is security goes into the blend and so on. So really, really very, very, very interesting aspects for the future. And I've already received one question. Do you think chatbots will become significant in driving customer care in banking? Manish, I guess you're the best to answer that one.
So the short answer of that is yes, it will be. Now, the long answer is that chatbots needs to be smarter. They need to adapt to the more AI models instead of just looking at heuristic data, right? And more conversational. So if you get a more conversational chatbot, that is what I see is going to be the future of the banking industry, right? Now, there is also a lot of home devices that are like Alexas of the world. That is also influencing the change. that we see today, right? But if you talk about banking industry, I see a lot of automation that is going to come about by using chatbots.
And I have one question to you, Manish, while waiting maybe for other questions to hit here our program. So when we think about AI, and I mentioned like this challenge of regulating AI, right? I can understand, you know, the ethical perspective of that, but how can you from your perspective and you're a practitioner, what is the right way or the right mood for regulators to look into such a thing that is very complicated for them? Because again, they wouldn't be experts in the technology. So what would be your recommendations? We might have, you know, some regulators with us today as attendees. What would be your three, I would say, recommendations to them when they are looking into this?
So it's again, the ethical part of AI is a debate that will continue to grow, right? I feel that we are not there yet. I really don't think that AI is controlling or will control our human life, right? AI is a tool and we have to use it as a tool, right? It is just like any other tool that sits out there. It gives you the power to make your decisions faster, smarter, and broader, right? So those are the three things that I see happening. Now, from a regulatory point of view, I have kind of stayed away from getting too deep into that, but I feel as long as it doesn't impact your daily life and it's not intrusive, I think that then we have kept it to the limits, right? So there are a lot of rumors about the Alexa sitting in your home is actually listening to you, right? There is conversations that are happening. That is not true. Okay. What happens is you have to wake up Alexa by using the word Alexa, and then the information goes and travels back to the cloud. Then they make sense of it. What are you saying? And then they will influence your buying behaviors by positioning certain products and services, right? So my short answer is, as long as it's not intrusive, right? It is, you are maintaining your privacy. I see no problems here.
Okay, I'll follow up with one additional question, maybe to yes. Close this. In the area of credit or insurance, right? Let's say as a consumer, you have been not granted a credit or an insurance because of an AI decision, right? Okay. How do you see that? Should you have rights to contest that? How do you see it happening in practice?
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, going back to what I was earlier saying, it's garbage in is garbage out, okay? So AI models will only develop if you have the right data over time, right? So there is still a human intervention that is required, right? There is a whole workflow that will still come into play and should come into play. Let me rephrase that, right? So can you contest? Absolutely. But how is that any different than an underwriter making a decision on your credit? It's not any different. How does an underwriter work? They look at all the data that's available to them and then make a decision. AI is another tool that is making a decision by looking at more data than what it is available to an underwriter, right? So the question that you're asking is, absolutely, can you not do it today, right? If your credit history or credit score is low, you can challenge that, right? It will still be the case. Now, what helps the businesses is there's a lot of data that was not discovered, now gets discovered all of a sudden. So